Thank you. Welcome, council. Welcome, staff, members of the audience, our residents that are here, and the residents watching at home. Welcome to the council meeting Monday, February 13th, 2023. I'd like to ask that everybody stand for the singing of our national anthem, O Canada, please. Thank you, council. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection, please. Thank you, council. Audience, please be seated. At the town of New Tecumseth, we acknowledge that we are on the treaty lands and traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples, specifically the Ojibwa, the Ottawa, Potawatomi peoples, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. This land is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. New Tecumseth is covered by Lake Simcoe, Nottawasaga Treaty Number 18, signed on October 17th, 1818 with the Chippewa Nation. We acknowledge that we are all treaty people and accept the responsibility to honor all our relations and move forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect. Thank you. I'm going to go to the clerk now for confirmation of the agenda.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are no items to add or delete.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So I'll have a recommendation. Be it resolved that the agenda for the council meeting held on February 13th, 2023 be confirmed as circulated. Councillor Foster, Councillor Masters. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Do any members of council have a pecuniary interest? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. I need to declare on CW31 the temporary patio program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other council members? Well, if one comes up or you find yourself in a position as we go through the meeting, please immediately raise your hand and we'll acknowledge you. I have one on CS1. At that point, I'll leave the meeting and I'll hand it over the chair to the Deputy Mayor, please. Adoption of council minutes. Be it resolved that the minutes of the council meeting dated January 30th, 2023 be adopted as circulated. A mover and a seconder, Councillor Jacks, Councillor Biss, all those in favor, that's carried. Thank you. Determination of items requiring separate discussion. I'll look to the clerk, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item D1, Martin Kuzma, CEO, Nottawasaga Futures, an introduction on Nottawasaga Futures to Council, as there is a presentation. Item D2, Mary Elizabeth Moore, Alliston Memorial Arena, as there is a deputation. Item D3, Marie Michelle Sorensen, Three Sisters Village, program expansion, as there is a presentation. Item CW31, temporary restaurant patios program, as there's a disclosure of pecuniary interest. And item CS1, verbal report of the clerk, unsolicited request to purchase part of unopened road allowance adjacent to 1 Maple Avenue East, Beaton, as there is a disclosure of pecuniary interest and staff are seeking direction.
Thank you. I believe C3, we have a request from Shift in regards for the waiving of fees, and direction will be required. So I could look to maybe a member of council if they'd like to pull that item. So, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Gabrick. Okay, thank you. So, and council members, does anybody have any other items they'd like to pull for discussion, please? I'm not seeing any, so I go back to the clerk, please. Could you please identify all the items that are pulled for discussion?
Thank you, Your Worship. D-1, Martin Kuzma, CEO, Nottawasaga Futures Deputation. D-2, Mary Elizabeth Moore, Alliston Memorial Arena Deputation. D-3, Marie Michelle Sorensen, Three Sisters Village Reprogram Expansion Presentation. C-3, the request for coldest night of the year, request for fees waived from Jennifer Pergentile, Executive Director of Shift. And CW31, Temporary Restaurant Patios Program, and CS1, verbal report of the clerk, unsolicited request to purchase part of unopened road allowance adjacent to 1 Maple Avenue East.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we have a motion be it resolved that items in the Committee of the Whole meeting report dated January 30th, 2023, including additional information memorandums, with the exception of those items identified for separate discussion, be approved, and the recommendations therein be adopted. And further, the communication items and any other item listed on the council meeting agenda dated February 13th, 2023, with the exception of those items identified for separate discussion, be received and are adopted. Move in a second, or moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councilor Harrison McIntyre. All those in favor, please. That's carried. Thank you. We have no deputations requiring statutory or public meetings. Thank you. So we'll move on to our deputations then, and our first deputation is for Martin Kuzma, CEO of Nottawasaga Futures, and we're having an introduction on Nottawasaga Futures to council. So Martin, if you'd like to come up, our deputations are 7 minutes, and just so you know, the clerk does hit that clock.
Perfect. That's good enough for me. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thanks, Martin.
My name is Martin Kuzma. I'm with Nottawasaga Futures, the CEO. So essentially, Nottawasaga Futures is a community economic development corporation. We provide business loans through our community investment fund, support to entrepreneurs. Go on to the next slide, if you don't mind. Support to entrepreneurs, information, resources, business coaching, and mentoring. Our catchment area is made up of the following 5 municipalities, including Newtek. Our head office is located here in Alliston, with satellite offices in Innisfil as well as town of Bradford. Next slide, please. These are just a summation of some of our services here for the fiscal year 2021 to 2022. In terms of Newtek, 20 Newtek businesses participate in the coaching and mentoring program. 67 Newtek businesses received one-on-one business in-depth counseling. In terms of the loans, in 2021-22, 7 loans were issued to Newtek businesses for just over $300,000. Next slide, sorry. Next slide again. Our organization did participate in the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund administered through FedDev. So in our community, we lent out just over $2.199 million for a total of 49 businesses that were supported through those funds. Next slide, please. Through our community economic development programs, we participated in 19 community projects. Next slide, please. Some of those projects included youth entrepreneurship. We partnered with Focus on delivering youth program where it introduces youth to potential of entrepreneurship as a career option. We also act as a film liaison for the area. We provide the BizLink program which helps support business transition of owners looking to sell their businesses. We've partnered with Camp Hill Communities of Ontario in their Maple Syrup Festival. So again, introducing to entrepreneurship through different groups. Next slide, please. We also participate in a green program called the South Simcoe Streams Network, where the objective is to rehabilitate the streams throughout our region. And we also participate with the agricultural sector in the area through our Acknowledge Forum and providing support to agricultural businesses. Next slide, please. And that's pretty much it. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Martin. Your reputation is phenomenal throughout the community.
Thank you.
Certainly a lot of new businesses and small businesses certainly reached out to you, and they have nothing but great things to say. But Martin, if you don't mind, I'm just going to kind of go around the council table to see if there's any questions for clarification. So I'll just, Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross, through you to Martin. Thank you for your presentation. Can you describe in what capacity our Economic Development Office and Nottawasaga Futures, how they interact and how they complement each other, work with each other?
Sure. We work together very closely in terms of supporting the business community. We help businesses that are setting up in the community navigate the local bylaw process in terms of if they're setting up a restaurant where they have to go to get the proper bylaws that comply with that. What else? Any lands that are available for sale. Sort of the inventory, we look to the town to sort of help us with navigating that. If we have big investors coming into the area, that may reach out to us. And in terms of film, we work with the town to make sure that when we issue the film permits, that all the sort of check boxes have been ticked off in terms of a public safety perspective. And yeah.
Councilor Foster.
Well, thank you. It was just nice to hear some of the more collaborative stuff you do with the town and how you're mutually beneficial. So I'm happy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go around the council table and coming back around this way. Thank you, Martin. No other questions from council. So we have a motion be it resolved that the deputation of Martin Kuzma, CO, Nottawasaga Futures, be received. Councillor Cox, Councillor Rappin, all those in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Worship.
Martin, very
Thank
much.
you, everyone.
We're moving on to our second deputation. Mary Elizabeth Moore, reference the Allison Memorial Arena. Ms. Moore, would you like to come up to the, thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity. Mayor Norcross, Deputy Mayor McClellan, councilors, staff, and fellow citizens. My name is Mary Elizabeth Moore. I am a longtime resident, having lived here since 1972, first in Beaton and now in rural New Tecumseh. My talk tonight is about the Alliston Memorial Arena. I come in support of the upgrades to this arena proposed in the current budget. I watched both of the current budget working sessions and was pleased to see attention given to the Alliston Memorial Arena. Having attended the youth dances there, the rodeo, and roller derby games, I've seen firsthand its value to the community. However, it was mentioned at the last budget meeting that the arena was, on its last legs, run down, and beyond its use. I was surprised, as when at the vaccination clinic held there during the pandemic, everything looked really good. After that budget meeting was over, I decided to make a trip into Alliston to take a look inside the Memorial Arena. Upon entering, I was struck by the really fresh, bright, and superbly clean appearance everywhere inside. I went upstairs and saw the refurbished kitchen in the hall, a great space, which is now certified for community use. Coming back downstairs, I saw the arena floor being buffed for the evening's roller derby practices, and that large concrete floor was just gleaming, ready to welcome the roller derby ladies that evening and the ball hockey players coming both days on the weekend. Was being well used. As I walked near the renovated snack bar, I was reading the various scheduled events on the electronic information screen on the wall when a young father with his very young son came in. When chatting with the father, I asked if they were going to the sport meeting upstairs. I commented that his son appeared quite young for sports, and he said, well, he is 3. Then off they went upstairs. I could hear a ball bouncing and others arriving. Well, that said it all to me. Not only this father and son were having fun, but they were inside a safe and welcoming space, connecting with other young residents. I left feeling happy and proud, knowing that our town leaders supported residents by maintaining this building for the community. To me, the recent pandemic reinforced the fact that this arena provides a key service for the community. The large areas already there provide lots of adequate spacing between individuals and for community groups of various sizes. I feel it's especially important for youth to have safe spaces to gather for events together, as backyards are now much smaller than years ago, and playing games on streets definitely isn't nearly as safe as it was in the past. It was felt a while ago by some that with the opening of the new Tecumseh Recreation Center, this memorial arena was not then needed anymore. To me, both community centers are needed now more than ever, as they serve different purposes for the ever-growing number of residents, many with young families. We are so fortunate that the Alliston Memorial Arena is a really strong structure that was built to last, like Stratford's William Almond Memorial Arena, which opened its doors there in 1924. When visiting Stratford, I saw the date that arena opened on a sign outside, so I decided to go in. I sensed its past history as soon as I stepped inside, and I saw firsthand how that arena is still going strong in that community. If someone has not grown up in New Tecumseh and moves here as an adult, I feel that anyone who steps inside our memorial arena will sense this town's history as well and want to make connections with other residents in the town. With lifestyles being different than years ago, and many residents commuting significant distances to work, feeling connected to where one lives can prove difficult. To me, anything that can help residents to connect and feel part of their home community is very important. I can envision the many activities being held now and in the future at Alliston's Memorial Arena will be a huge help to continue to foster the sense of community that I and so many others in New Tecumseh now enjoy. I therefore respectfully ask that you please support the proposed upgrades to the Alliston Memorial Arena as presented in this year's budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank you very much for taking the time to come out tonight and express those heartfelt feelings for the AMA. I know how supportive you've always been towards that facility, and you're right, it is getting used. Is there any comments or questions from members of council for our presenter, Councillor Gabrick?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for that lovely speech. It was really well written and really funny, and it was nice to see the insight as to how the arena is being used. I don't think that the comment that it's on its last legs represents everyone's views here at this table. And the things that were approved in the budget were the safety items. The floor being an add-on was kind of an additional ask, but we did support taking care of that building.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gabrick. Are there any other comments or questions? Thank you so much for taking the time out. And council is having a all-day budget working session this Thursday, where there'll be further budget deliberations, and I'm sure your presentation tonight will spill over into that meeting.
Thank you, Mary Norcross.
Thank you. So we have a motion, be it resolved that the deputation of Mary Elizabeth Moore be received. Councillor Cox, Councillor Gabrick, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to our third deputation, please. Marie Michelle Sorensen, Three Sisters Village Reference Program Expansion. Hi, if you'd like to come up to the microphone, please. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Hi, Mr. Mayor, Richard Norcross, Your Worship. I've never done this before, so I don't know.
You're fine.
Members of council and everyone in the room. Mary, that was beautiful. That was very moving. Thank you for that. So we're here today to just present to the members of council and everyone here who the Three Sisters Village, who we are, and kind of ask for a bit of a partnership or some support that we could get from council in order to kind of root ourselves in the township of New Tecumseh. So a little bit about who we are. The Three Sisters Village is a place to be and grow. We are located at Homestead, which is where I reside. And there we offer a holistic approach to learning and development in an outdoor setting. Thanks. Our team is made up of 5 incredible women that have unique sets of gifts, experience, and knowledge that fuels this ever-evolving project. So you can see who those people are. I'm not going to read off every single one, but I wanted you guys to see their faces because they are such a big part of who we are. And Julia's here with us today, supporting us as well. So we put our minds together to plan programs, develop business strategies, inform and educate our community on what Forest and Nature School is and what our programs are, and as well as connect to its members. We offer seasonal programs for school-aged children, if you guys are wondering what it is that we do. So we have fall, winter, and spring sessions, which last a couple of weeks. So our fall session lasts 12 weeks. Our winter session is almost done now. We're on week 7. And then spring session starts after March break. Next slide, please. And we are an ever-evolving project. This is the way that the Three Sisters Village is now is not even close to how we envisioned it would be in the beginning. Everything we do is kind of based on feedback that we get from the people that we work with, that the guides, the families, and feedback from kind of our following now that we have social media, and based on the needs of our community. And because of that, next slide, please. We actually developed a Toddler Fridays program. There was a big need for younger children. There was a lot of people reaching out on social media about the younger children. And so we kind of, like I said before, put our minds together and made up this program. So on Fridays, we welcome children aged 2 to 3 years old. And we follow the same kind of schedule, fall, winter, and spring sessions. Next slide, please. That's just a couple extra pictures. I just feel like it's impactful just to kind of see the kind of, to me, it's like a picture sometimes holds like a certain energy, so that's why I put those in there. The saying, it takes a village, it couldn't be more true. I find moving forward in this world, we desire to continue to provide services and solutions that are accessible to all, and this project allows us to learn and grow as individuals, but also as a whole. We're currently running all of our programs at the Homestead, like I said before, at 6600 County Road in Baxter, which is in Essa Township. But we can no longer sustain a large number of participants at this location. That's just kind of a picture of our winter program, and you can see there's a bit of an overflow. We do have 25% of our home that we're able to use according to the bylaws for this, and we've been granted special permission actually from the Essa Township to continue to run our programs as long as our neighbors, we're not, there's no complaints of dust or noise. We had a lot of support from our neighbors because they see the life now at the Homestead, and so yeah, we did present to Essa Township, and like we said, we have a special permission to continue to run as is without any amendments or zoning amendments. So as our community continues to grow, we're seeking a secondary site to build connections to. So the Three Sisters Village is looking for support from the town and members of council to achieve our goals for growth and accessibility. What we would like to offer the community, we run summer camps. We did this last year at the Homestead. So this is a full week program running Monday to Friday from 8:30 to 3:30. So it's a full day. We're offering 4 weeks of camp this year. Last year we did 3 weeks of camp. We have connected with Earl Rowe Provincial Park. We've been in contact with Jillian McDougall, who is the superintendent. And there is possibility for us to run our camps there. So this is kind of something that we've already aligned ourselves, but if there's other opportunities within the town, that would be amazing to kind of look into any opportunity that we would have here in the town of New Tecumseh, other than at Earl Rowe. And really we're planning for the future. So for our fall sessions of 2023, winter sessions of 2024, and spring session of 2024. Because our numbers are growing and we can't sustain those numbers at the Homestead, we would really like that secondary site so that we can accommodate all of these participants and all of the families that want to come. We've had to kind of put a few of the children for the toddler program on like a wait list because we don't have enough space to really to have the program that we want to have, and the children have the space that they need at the Homestead. So next slide, please. What we are looking for, and this doesn't have to be, like I said, this is an ever-evolving project, and we love the idea of hearing what members of council or anyone has to say about this, or kind of suggest, I guess. So for our summer camps, we're looking for a site with access to a forested area, a sheltered space, and access to washrooms. So setting up under a pavilion or a sheltered space. We've looked into renting a storage bin just to kind of put all of our camp materials in one safe spot, just so we're not putting everything in the back of our cars back and forth every day. Or if there's a storage space there, I mean, that's wonderful that we could use instead of renting a storage bin. And for our seasonal programs, most particularly, we're looking for a site with access to a forested area. We'd need a shelter with access to water and washrooms and an indoor space. Because as the weather kind of cools off, we are an outdoor program. We spend most of our days outdoors, but like you guys saw, there's inclement weather days, and we need that indoor space for our participants. So for the programs, it would be nice to have that one location where we have access to both, something where we can seek shelter inside. Yeah, and so those are pictures there of like the homestead. And you can see like the one summer camp at the top. Like it's busy, you know. And the kids, they have free range. Even some of them call themselves free range children, with the free range chickens running around. So it's nice, but to have more space would be amazing. So the three sisters, I'm going to end with this. So the three sisters in our name could be a specific person, place, or thing, but most importantly, it's a symbol of reciprocity that reminds us that our unique gifts, when shared with one another, can lift, empower, and sustain an entire village.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to go to council, see if there's any questions of the presenter. Councillor Masters.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mrs. Sorensen. First, I'd like to commend you on this initiative. I think it's great to have such a camp in our area. For my own edification, I know these are camps, but is there a theme that you push, or what is the main theme you like to participate with the children? What is it you like to, the messaging that you go through?
The messaging. That's a good question. It's a question that we kind of ask ourselves all the time, even in moving forward. The biggest thing I think that the Three Sisters Village is founded on is the principles of Forest and Nature School. So Forest and Nature School, a lot of people are like, oh, it has to happen in a forest. Not necessarily. It's based on principles that connect the participants to place, and connects participants to themselves, and allows children to kind of lead their own learning. So when you talk about the emergent curriculum, it's that a curriculum per se, we don't follow a curriculum, we follow the children. So if there's something that interests them, us as guides, we don't see each other as teachers. We're not the givers of knowledge. We're the ones that kind of support and learn alongside the children. And so I think that's our biggest message, is that we have so much to learn from one another. And it's not so much like, you know, we're the teachers and they're the learners. We all learn together, and we can't forget that third big party is nature, and that connection to nature. We have so much to learn from nature. And so that is I would say nature is our biggest teacher.
Very nice. Supplementary, Your Worship?
Go ahead.
Knowing the area around here, is there a particular location that you've kind of thought would be very nice, or something you think that would suit your purpose?
Yeah, we've been really seeking Earl Row. So this has been happening since October. There have been some challenges along the way. I think it's administrative not issues, but just some challenges that I can't go beyond what I've gone. I think that the superintendent now has to take those steps to make sure that everything's aligned, because we are an insured forest school. So there was Earl Row. We spend a lot of time at the Rotary Park in town. We've gone to the Boyne Museum. I know that there's a bit of a space back there that doesn't always get used. Mary talked about the arena, and instantly I just kind of, I lit up. I feel like something in the middle of the town, even though, like I said, we don't have access necessarily to a forest in the backyard, that's okay, because connecting to place is really important, and having our participants really understanding where they're from and connecting to the place that helps us thrive, right?
That's why I thought maybe the Riverdale Park would be
Yeah, the Rotary Park.
Yeah, Rotary Park is a good location.
Yeah, they have that little forested area. We spend a lot of time there. It's beautiful. It's central. Yeah.
Sorry, and just to clarify, you're looking for a place to go to every day. Are you looking to rent a place, or are you looking for the town to donate the property? I just wanted to clarify that for members of council before councilor.
For sure.
Yeah.
Of course, we are, in our financial planning, there is room for paying for the space to rent it. Just like we said at Earl Row, we would have to pay the pavilion to be there for camps. There is room for that, but we are just starting. This project, we're coming up to a year now with the March break camps. And so to get us on our feet, if there's any opportunities for grants that anyone has a connection to that we could tap into, that would be wonderful. If there's any funding available, that would also be a gift.
No, that's great. I don't want you to have to go through the whole thing. I just wanted to clarify,
Yeah.
were you looking to rent or you were looking for free space? So, and you did that for me. Councillor Jacks, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Ms. Sorensen. I commend you as well on the initiative and the success to date. Knowing having an elementary age daughter who's a student, they get such a reduced amount of time outside in comparison to what we even had as children growing up. So I can imagine how wonderful the days are outside. Just to clarify, I noticed in your program schedules, it is 12 weeks and they run Wednesdays and Thursdays. So is your target student someone who's homeschooled then currently? Like, how does this fit with a traditional curriculum or school-aged child?
It's so great. Thank you so much for your question. Both, all of it. So we have a lot of homeschooling students that or participants that attend our programs, but we also have public school education students that come once a week, sometimes twice a week. And so we've done a lot of research and digging, and myself having children that go to school. One of my sons actually goes to school 2 days a week, and then he attends forest school for the rest of the week. And we homeschool on there's public school, forest school 2 days, and then homeschooling 1 day. And so as a parent, you have the right to homeschool your child even part-time. And so what the parent does is they present this to the principal. They write out a letter of intent to homeschool, and then usually there's no issues, and the school board signs off, and then they're able to attend. And so that's why we kind of run this way, just also to honor the seasons and the flow of how it goes. And we have students that return. You know, if the one student goes to public school, they did the fall session, then they come back for winter session and spring session.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Supplementary?
Okay.
Thank you. Just your presentation noted a couple of times accessibility, providing accessibility. Can you just speak to that in clarification? Is the program or curriculum available to anyone requiring any type of accommodations to be met? Thank
So
you.
right now, no, because of where the homestead is. I mean, there's no ramp to go into the indoor space where we are. Of course, if we had a family approach us and say, here, this is, we have certain needs that need to be met, we would figure out a way to make it happen. The terrain might not be safe for someone or accessible to everyone, anyone in our community. We're also on County Road 21. So accessibility is not so much, is also in terms of, can these children get transportation? Because it's kind of out of the way for a lot of people and might not work with the commute for parents. And so, again, accessibility in that sense is something that we're looking for. That's why in Alliston, yeah.
Okay. I don't see any other questions from members of Councillor Rappin.
Through you to Ms. Sorensen. Thank you so much for coming. Very interested as a teacher, and I've done my outdoor ed and all that as well. And hi to Julia over there in the audience, and hello to Natasha as well. Taught with Natasha, another member of your group. The one thing, if you haven't been paying attention to some of the things we're going through lately, I've been talking about natural playgrounds, and you were looking for a direction to go. If you wouldn't mind, I'm more than willing to look at grassroots initiatives from communities, and if you want to have a look at a natural playground, I definitely love working with you and seeing if we can bring something like that into our community. So,
Yeah, sorry, just in response, Councillor Rappin, we do have a motion that it will be referred back to Parks and Rec to come back with a report to council on what spaces are available or that the town may be able to work with you. So that,
Thank you so much
will be
for
the motion. But I want to give everyone a chance to speak. Councillor Gabrick?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering, through you, how this would possibly affect existing day camps that we already have in New Tecumseh, what those attendance numbers are looking like, and whether that would deplete that, and also what liability would then fall back to the town should an injury occur on town-owned property.
No, thank you, and that's a great question. Yes, the town does run its own day camps, so the suggestion would be is to refer it back to staff and ask them to come back with a report that could address available spaces and the questions that you just asked, responsibility and liability on the town. So, yes.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, can I?
Yeah, sure. No, we're just trying to direct it to, you want to report back, you want to know what can be done, so I'm just putting it there. So.
Okay, great. Sorry, Councillor Gabrick, you talked about liability for the town. I just wanted you to know that as an insured forest and nature school program, we do have our own insurance and liability. And when we do run programs on a secondary site, it's kind of considered like as a field trip. So we're covered as long as we get the certificates of insurance from our insurance company with the proper address, then there is some coverage there. I know it might be different, I guess, with the liability.
We have a certain level that we would expect that renters or people that use our facilities would have to provide. But once again, we can address that too. So, any other comments or questions? So the Deputy Mayor, can you move the motion that it be resolved that the deputation of Marie Michelle Sorensen, Three Sisters Village, be received, and that staff report back with with possible opportunities. Is that enough direction? And do you want to second that, Councillor Jackson? Okay, so that's moved and seconded. All those in favor? That's perfect. That's carried.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. We're moving on to CW3. Sorry, C3, my apologies. And that is a request from Jennifer Bergentile, Executive Director Shift, refer coldest night of the year, request for fees waived. Deputy Mayor, you pulled it. Did you want to put a motion on the floor?
Thank you. Yes, I would. I would like to put a motion on the floor that we waive the fees for Shift for their coldest night of the year event on at the AMA for February 25th, 2023, and that we also waive the fees that they have already paid for the parking lot in the amount of $162.42. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Masters? Is there any comment or discussions on that motion? Sorry. You want to go? Okay, Councillor Bisk?
Thank you, Worship. Through your Worship to staff, not sure who could answer it. How much will the total be that we waive in terms of the fees that we're waiving?
I figured that's where the GM was. Sorry, Councillor Bisk. That's why I was looking at her to answer the question.
Sorry. Through your Worship to Council, First of all, I'd like to mention that we did look into the opportunity of renting the facility, which is not available during that time frame. So, except after 5 o'clock. So I'm not sure that that's even suitable for them. So that might cross that section off of the request. Secondly, I don't have the email. It was $164.42. But I'd just like to respectfully point out to council that we generally don't waive fees, but what we have been known to do in the past is offer a grant in lieu of the cost of the fees. We don't like to set a precedent or a protocol of waiving fees by request, but it is council's prerogative to grant funds to different facilities should they choose to do that.
No, thank you for that clarification, GM. I'm sure 5 o'clock, if that's when it's available, I'm sure they would take that because they don't come back, I think, till maybe 5 o'clock. Yeah, the walk starts at 4, so if we can offer it from 5 o'clock up, if council's amenable to doing that. You heard from the GM. Did you want to just grant it, or do you want to, waive the fees, or do you want to take it from the grants and donations? Is there any comments, questions? Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. I would just ask, in light of what GM Bedford has said, and I think in the interest of fairness to all groups who come and ask, if we follow along that line of taking it from the grant, it precludes us from the next time having to issue something. And if you follow a process that's established, then I think it's fair. So I'm not opposed to it. It would just be if it follows that process, I would ask that we make that amendment.
I'll look to the deputy mayor to be okay with the friendly amendment.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you. Seconder? Okay, thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So we have CW 3-1. Deputy Mayor has declared a conflict and has turned her back to the table. And the motion is be it resolved that report number ED-2023-01 be received. And further, that municipal fees and charges required to obtain a permit to operate temporary restaurant patio will continue to be waived. Further, that fees were reviewed as part of the annual fees and charges bylaw review. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Foster, Councillor Biss. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, you are back in. So this is where we're going to move to the council closed meeting. I have a pecuniary interest, so once the motion's carried, I am going to vacate the chair, and Deputy Mayor McCullen will take over the chair and run the meeting. I'll look to our valued members in the audience. When we do go into closed session, we do leave the chamber area here. They close the door, and that's what they have, a closed meeting. When they're done, if you're still here, you're more than welcome to come back in and hear the decision, and as we continue on through the night. So I have a motion be it resolved that council convene in the closed meeting at 6:41 p.m. It's for a verbal report of the clerk, unsolicited request to purchase part of an unopened road allowance adjacent to 1 Maple Avenue East, Beaton, as per the Municipal Act, Section 2392. C, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of the land by the municipality or local board. Mover and seconder, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Harrison McIntyre. All those in favor? Thank you. And I'll excuse myself. Deputy Mayor, you're running the meeting, please. Thank you. Welcome back. Welcome myself back. So we're reconvening into open meeting. I look to the clerk. First off, we have a motion that council convene into open meeting at 7:10, following the discussion of item GS1. And Madam Clerk, do you have a verbal report of the clerk?
The motion is that that the verbal report of the clerk be received, and further that the confidential direction therein be approved.
Thank you. So that's moved by the Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder? Councillor Foster? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. So we have to do the confirming bylaw, but I'm going to look to the clerk. Did I arbitrarily miss the bylaws? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I appreciate that. Be resolved that the following bylaws be read a first, second, and third time enacted. Bylaw 2023-028, 2023-029, 2023-030, 2023-031, moved by Deputy Mayor, Councillor Gabrick. All those in favor? That's carried. Any general information or announcements? I'm not seeing any. Public notice, there's a Committee of the Whole Planning Public Meeting this Wednesday, February the 15th, 2023, 6 p.m. right here in these council chambers. It's moved in second, we're out. So we have a confirming bylaw. So it'll be resolved that bylaw 2023-032 to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting on February 13th, 2023 be read a first, second, and third time and enacted. Mover and seconder, Councillor Jacks, Councillor Cox, all those in favor? That's carried. Adjournment, be resolved that the meeting adjourn at 7:12 p.m. Mover and seconder, Councillor Cox, Councillor Harrison McIntyre, and we are adjourned. Council, I had the luxury of being outside. Would you like to take a 5-minute break before we progress into the next one? I see the head saying yes, so we'll be back in 5 to 7 minutes, please. Thank you. Welcome back, council, staff, members of the public. We're going to head into our Committee of the Whole, Monday, February 13, 2023, public meeting. So I'm going to go to the clerk. Confirmation of agenda.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are no items to add or delete.
Thank you. So the recommendation that the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting held on February 13, 2023 be confirmed as circulated. Mover, seconder, please. Councillor Bess, Councillor Gabrick, all those in favor? Thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Council to identify any disclosure of pecuniary interest and the reason thereof. Council, like I always say, if you find yourself in that position, just raise your hand. So I'll look to the clerk to identify any items requiring separate discussion, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item CW51, Community Improvement Plan Status Update, as we have a presentation by staff.
Thank you. I'll look to council. I'm not seeing any items. Oh, sorry.
CW52, please.
Thank you. I'm going to slowly go around the table. Councillor Masters.
Thank you, Worship. CW11 is that, and CW12, and CW51 and CW52.
Thank you, Councillor Masters. Now I'm going to go to, sorry, Councillor Bess.
Thank you, Worship. CW32, please.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go to members of the public. Oh, sorry, Councillor Foster.
CW31.
No, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, council. Okay, I'm going to move on from council to members of the public. So I'm just looking out to see if any members of the public have anything to identify. I don't see any, so I'm going to go back to the clerk to summarize all items identified for separate discussion, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item CW11, Traffic Advisory Committee, written motion from Mayor Norcross. Item CW12, Safety Concerns in Victorian Village, written motion from Councillor Gabrack. Item CW31, Business Milestone Policy. Item CW32, County of Simcoe's Welcome Week. Item CW51, Community Improvement Plan Status Update. And CW52, Urban Design Guidelines Review, Needs Assessment Report, and Project Update. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have a recommendation that all the items not identified for separate discussion be received, and the recommendation is therein be recommended to council for adoption. Do we have a mover and a seconder, please? The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Foster, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. So we're going to move on to item CW1. That was pulled by Councillor Masters, please.
Thank you, Worship. To you, I just want to put my name forward for this committee when it becomes about.
Thank you. That's duly noted. Is there any other comments or questions? Councillor Gabrick?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would also be interested in that committee.
No, that's perfect mix. Thank you. So we have a recommendation. Does anybody want to move and second it, please? And it's whereas traffic advisory committees provide a community perspective on road safety issues, and whereas traffic advisory committees promote awareness and education regarding road safety for all methods of transportation, including cyclists, pedestrian and motor vehicle drivers. Now therefore it be resolved that staff be directed to investigate the implementation of a traffic advisory and or road safety committee in the town of New Tecumseh. Just before I call a vote, this has been done up in Essa Township, and I was speaking with the mayor up there, and they said it's very, very effective. It gives them an opportunity to streamline complaints right across the municipalities, gives them a chance to put in efficient town-wide policies right across the municipality. So, Councillor Gabrick, I knew you wanted to move that, and the Deputy Mayor, you wanted to second that. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Moving on to item 2, it was pulled by Councillor Masters, but it is Councillor Gabrick's request. So, Councillor Gabrick, do you want to go first or last? Because it's your motion. You have the last. You have the last word.
I'll go last.
Thank you. So I'll go to. Sorry, Councillor Masters. It's it will be Councillor Gabrick will have the last word. So I'll go to you, Councillor Masters.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. What I would like to do is I have an initiative on for the budget meeting on traffic calming, including cameras, and I would like to include this initiative under that particular segment if I can, or at least the intent of it.
Okay, yeah, so I think I understand what you're saying, Councillor Masters, and it's really good points. I think they may come under the Traffic Advisory Committee, is where I kind of see that. But anyhow, so did you want to speak, Deputy Mayor? Then you're last, Councillor.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I'd like to see this motion go through as is. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I look at Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Norcross. Mayor Norcross, my apologies. In speaking with Councillor Gabrick today, I applaud these motions, and I think they're excellent. There's some policies in here, currently, for example, speed bumps or speed humps are not, we have a pilot program, and they don't make up the current policy. And I think a lot of these issues are definitely in wards 1, 2, and 3, 4, and I think you could take it out to the broader context of the entire municipality. So I would look to my esteemed colleague that she might consider a friendly amendment that the request that speed bumps be looked at in a larger fashion as compared to just on these particular roads, Holt Avenue, Walker Boulevard, or 8th Avenue, to include the broader municipality.
Okay.
If she was amenable to that.
Thank you. Any other councillors? So I'll go to Councillor Harrison McIntyre. Councillor Gabrick, you have the last.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. We do have a traffic calming program policy. Thank you, that's the word. I'd like to just refer this to our staff member here to speak to how this fits in with the policy.
Is there staff that would like to answer the question from the councillor? I think I'd look at Director Vatry. Thank you, Director.
Through your worship to Councillor Harrison McIntyre, the town does currently have a traffic calming policy which includes various types of traffic calming, including speed bumps on a temporary basis. There is a process outlined in that policy of how the public or even the town would go through soliciting input from the residents to ensure that this is something that they want, and then depending on what the outcome of there is, we would report back to council as part of that, and then we would council would make a decision on based on what needs of the resident and also the data that we've collected to support the installation of any particular type of traffic calming on a street.
Okay, so
So yeah, I similar to other, what has been brought forward. I've had many residents approach about all sorts of areas and the need for traffic calming. So what my experience is that staff does they record the speed that's traveled and then they come back to us with that information, and then that helps to inform the decision that we make, rather than having it be something that councillors bring forward and it's done on that kind of basis. I would rather that we follow our policy and investigate it, and rather than just going ahead and putting things in place without all the information. So that would be my recommendation to council, is that we follow our existing policy.
yeah, and I think that addresses that. The way I read the recommendation is now, therefore, it be resolved that staff be directed to bring a report back to council to address the traffic calming measures as set out below. So I think that would be part of the process. 2 are very site-specific, particularly the stop sign and the hidden driveway. But we could certainly get the report back on number 3, Councillor Harrison McIntyre, like you were suggesting. But I will, that's my thought process. But I'd go to Councillor Gabrick. It's your motion, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, that's exactly how the motion reads. So 2 of them are very specific with the installation of stop signs and the caution hidden driveways, as the driveways on Holt literally abut King Street. So if a car is coming south on King and turning into Victorian Village, that person coming out of their driveway has no chance. You know, there's going to be a problem. As for the stop sign on Holt at Morrison, that has become kind of a throughway through there, and there's been a lot of near misses, especially in the mornings. But as it pertains specifically to the speed bumps and the speed humps, taking into consideration Councillor Foster and Councillor Harrison McIntyre's suggestions, I wouldn't want to do that without consulting staff, following existing policy, and also speaking with residents in the community to see where the best placement for that would be. And then to add to that, a friendly amendment to the motion to also include Councillor Foster's suggestion of having that looked at in other areas where needed.
Okay. So I would look to Director Vatry then, or do you have clarification or enough that if this gets passed tonight, that you will bring a report back identifying implementation on 1, 2, and 3 before any decisions were made?
Yeah, through your worship, yes, we'll collect the data and we'll bring you back a report that identifies how these could be implemented.
I looked at the councillor. You're okay with that? So I have it moved by Councillor Gabrick, and a seconder for this motion, please, that's on the floor. Councillor Masters. Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. We're moving on to our item CW31. That's our business milestone policy. And Councillor Foster, you pulled that, please.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. Through you to Ms. Breeden, our economic development, further to my my email that I sent today, and actually the subsequent amended email. My only concern was, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, I would look for other input from other councillors, is I think it's a great policy. It clarifies a lot of things. And as I said in my email, thank you to you for your interactions with the business community and what you're doing. I just noticed a number of references to businesses for profit, and then very clear direction after that town staff can't be involved in an official capacity. So, and I'll reference a couple. Procedure 4. Businesses seeking town officials to attend a not-for-profit special event will be contacted by ED office and notified that town officials are not able to attend these for-profit events in any type of official capacity. I get that and agree with that, but I would suggest, for example, in that case, but that as councillors we should be encouraged to attend businesses. So I think what I'm looking for is equal time be given to what can't be done, what should be done, and what's expected us to be done as councillors. Because if I read that policy as a layperson, I would say, so town officials can't come to for-profit events. Not so sure. It's just the sound and the perception, if I could. And then in 17, it says the same thing. It refers to, and will not be able to use their position to represent the town in any official capacity. I have faith that members around this council table will not go and stand outside with a banner on promoting that the town of New Tecumseh suggests that you buy this particular product from this business. But we also all need to be there to support the businesses. And as a councillor, it is an official capacity, but there are certain rules to follow. So I'm not going to make any particular motions tonight, because this is going to come back in 2 weeks. So I would ask if I've made myself, if my thoughts are the thoughts of council, then I would ask that direction be given, or put a motion that direction be given to amend a couple of sections that relate to official capacity and our responsibilities as councillor and deputy mayor and mayor. So I'll put that motion out there for consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Masters. Will second that. I'm just looking at Ms. Breeden. Did you you've got the scope that's being requested when it comes back to council for ratification?
Through your worship. Through your worship, yes, I understand the direction that council would like to see us take.
Thank you very much. Before I call the vote on the motion, are there any comments or questions, please? Councillor Gabrick.
Thank you. Yes, I'm just concerned that if we passed the business milestone policy without further discussion as requested, that we could find ourselves in a situation where we are violating some part of the ethics code. And as elected officials who were elected by residents in the community and being invited to attend things by residents in the community, that it might just sends the wrong message if we have to big brother it, whether we can go or not.
No, understand. So, Councillor Foster, my understanding, just to make sure that we're on the same page, is that it's going to be referred back to Ms. Breeden. She'll make the revisions to the policy on the suggestions of Councillor Foster. It will come back in 2 weeks, and then if you're happy, we can vote in favor then. But duly noted comments. I appreciate that. Councillor Cox, you want to make a comment? Or a question?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, just so I have a clear understanding, is what the information that's coming back just how it relates to our code of conduct?
I'm with Councillor Foster. Are you comfortable? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. Just to clarify, is it, when reading the policy, it gave the impression in my mind that it was, that you if there's a for-profit event, which every business in town is in there for profit, they all do their other events, is that we can't attend in any official capacity. Well, as a councillor, that has official capacity connotations to it, and so I just simply thought that the policy in 3 sections where it was written stopped a little short of saying official capacity is as a spokesperson for the council, but as a councillor, you would probably want to be there and be encouraged to be there. And that by reading the policy as it was written, I didn't think it portrayed that message on those 3 ends. I'm not sure if that answers your question. That's what I was looking to do.
Councillor Cox?
Yeah, so I think that if the policy comes back and it shows how it would align or negate from our code of conduct, would probably be a good step in the right direction.
And I see Ms. Breeden taking notes there, so we'll go from there. So, sorry, Councillor Cox?
And sorry, supplementary, I do see that town staff is recognized in the first part of the report too. Does town staff have their own code of conduct they would have to be following during any respective event?
I'd go to the CAO, please.
Through you, Mayor Norcross, to Councillor Cox, yes, all town employees follow the employee code of conduct, yes.
Go ahead.
Sorry, supplementary, Mr. Mayor. If we can maybe get that written into the policy too, just I know in point 18 it refers to town council following their code of conduct. Maybe if the respective code of conduct of town employees be followed at such events was added in there, that might be good.
That's fine, Mr. Seal. Yeah, we'll make sure that's referenced on the report that comes back. Okay, Mrs. Breeden? I'm sorry, I'm just going to go around the horseshoe. Deputy Mayor, you were next, then Councillor Masters.
Thank you. When I read this, it was point 4 that stood out for me, because the way I initially read it was that we're not allowed to go to for-profit events. We are. But the way I see this policy rolling out is that we're not going to get an official invite through our economic development. So it almost just needs a little bit of rewording, because I'll tell you, we are in official capacity wherever we go. We are always councillors, we're always the mayor, we're like in the grocery store, in Walmart, it doesn't matter. But after I read it and I talked about it, we're not going to get an official email invite through the town's economic development. So if maybe it can sort of speak through that, because sometimes we get emails, or emails inviting us places, one-on-one or whatnot, and I think it just means that it's not going to be sanctioned through the economic development office. So if we can just clarify that, I think that would make a big difference. Thank you.
Do you have that clarification? Thank you, Ms. Breeden. Sorry, Councillor Masters.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the staff. What would be the difference between a policy for staff and a policy for council? If we're talking the same thing, I think they should pretty well follow the same, wouldn't they? As far as policy of conduct, under those conditions of business visitation. I don't see where. So in other words, I would be a bit strange to be reading a policy for staff and then read another policy for council. I think there should be a blended policy on something like that.
I'll go to the CAO to either answer or to refer.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross, and through you to Councillor Masters and members of the committee. I don't believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Cox, I don't believe you were speaking to two different policies with respect to attending events, but just referencing the employee code of conduct, that if employees were to attend these events, which they don't normally, but if they were, then they would adhere to their own code of conduct as well. So it wouldn't be two separate policies here, just referencing both policies.
Yeah, and that answers your question, Councillor Cox.
Yes, the only reason I referenced it, because in the scope of the agenda item, it says the policy applies to the mayor, deputy mayor, members of council, and all town employees that may attend a milestone event in any type of official capacity.
Okay. CAO?
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. Just to clarify things, because as I'm reading the policy, there's a difference between for-profit businesses and for-profit special events. So I would ask council just to keep that in mind, because your comments with respect to businesses, well, of course, businesses are for-profit, but that doesn't necessarily, that's not the same as a for-profit special event. They are very different things.
Okay, so we'll get that outlined when more references come back. Okay, is there any other comments or questions in regards? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so business milestone policy that was called by you, Councillor Foster, would you move that? Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Cox? Okay, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. We're going to go on to CW3-2, which is County of Simcoe's Welcome Week, and that was called by Councillor Bess.
Thank you, Worship. Through Worship, I believe this would go to the CAO. Ms. Breeden, I'm happy to see that the County of Simcoe's Local Immigration Partnership and Ethnic Mosaic Alliance have received an Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada grant that allows them to host a week of welcome for Canadian newcomers in the county. I noticed in the report, which is very well written, that almost 20% of our residents were born outside of Canada, and certainly that reflected a lot of the things that I saw when I was out campaigning, and I was very happy to see that. And the two organizations are requesting that the town New Tecumseh lead a one-day community, municipal, and social services fair during the week of June 11th to the 17th, and I support that 100%. What I want to ask, though, is I believe our policy is that we do not waive fees, and we certainly wouldn't waive, and instead we provide grants. However, I do not believe that the County of Simcoe qualifies for a grant. So I would ask that we remove the second paragraph of this motion, to remove and further the staff be directed to waive all rental and setup fees to the County of Simcoe associated with holding the community fair at a town-run facility. And I'm hoping that someone would second that we'll just read the first one, that report ED 2023-04 be received, and further that Committee of the Whole direct staff to undertake a community fair between the week of July 11th to 17th, 2023, in association with the County of Simcoe's Week of Welcome.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion, Councillor Jacks? Okay, so we have the amended motion. Any other comments or questions, Deputy Mayor?
So just to be clear, we're not giving them a grant and we're not waiving the rental fees? Is that, okay, I don't support that. I think down here there needs to be more of a presence to celebrate and practice inclusion with local immigrants and the ethnic Mosaic Alliance, and I still support that we, whether it be in the form of waiving the fees or giving them a grant, regardless, I'd like to support this initiative because I think it's important.
Clarification, Councillor Bess.
Thank you, Worship. So just to clarify, Deputy Mayor, I'm not saying that we don't support it. What I'm saying is that the county does not qualify for a grant, nor do we waive fees. So it's not possible for us to provide any financial assistance, considering though the grant that the Simcoe County is the higher municipality, and they also have received money from Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. So they've received a grant, and we're not even in a position to waive fees nor give another grant to the County of Simcoe. So I support this 100%. I think we should do this and make sure that we set aside the right the right town staff energy and support and accommodate everything that needs to be done here. But I don't think we even have an opportunity or even the ability to provide a grant to the county. Maybe I can direct this to the General Manager Bedford.
Well,
to
I'll
comment.
take it. I'll go to the CAO. I think that's appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. Through members of council, certainly with an understanding that we generally don't waive fees, and Councillor Biss is absolutely correct, the county would not qualify for a grant. Our thought with requesting this of council is that there's only one taxpayer. And that was our thought, that, you know, whether we pay for it, the town of New Tecumseth or the county of Simcoe, at the end of the day, it's really not making much of a difference when we look at who's paying the rental fee. So that was our thought process through it, but obviously we will certainly follow council's direction with respect to the position council wishes to take.
Councillor Biss?
Thank you, Worship. Through Worship to the CAO. So my question is then, what funding source could we use? I absolutely support this. If it's something that we have to do in the town of New Tecumseth, what funding source could we use to accommodate and make sure this happens the week of the 11th to the 17th of June?
I could probably go to the GM on that, or go ahead. Go ahead.
Through your worship, there is funding available in the economic development budget under special events that we could pull the money out of there that hasn't been allotted to upcoming events. There is a fresh a cushion, I would say, hopefully if the budget is approved, that would allow us for an event like this.
Okay. So maybe we come back, you can identify the funding sources, because it's got to come back to council, so that'll give you 2 weeks to identify a funding source.
Through your worship, it would be coming out of the, we could use the emergency fund for the mayor's business address.
Nice.
Which was $1,500.
I'm just not sure if you're joking me or not.
I'm not.
Just kidding. Just kidding. It's nice to see that they were. Yeah, we'll just have that in the report that come back what the funding is. Councillor Biss, did you have another comment on that?
Yes, Worship. So I'll just amend my motion to read that report ED-2023-04 be received, and further that the Committee of the Whole direct staff to undertake a community fair between the week of June 11th to the 17th, 2023, in association with the County of Simcoe's Week of Welcome, and further that staff be directed to identify a funding source to support our efforts to support this great program.
I'll give the clerk a minute to address that. I do have a couple of questions, though. Sorry, did you want to go, Deputy Mayor? No. Okay, thank you. And this is through to Ms. Breeden. Reading the report, how many different days are going to be set up throughout the county?
Through your worship, we believe there will be 7 right now.
That was my thought process.
The county has confirmed that the Sunday will be an event at the administration building, at the county administration building, and then the Saturday will be another event at their admin building, and then they're hoping to have a day in the east, west, north, and south.
No, thank you. And the reason I'm going there is because what they're requesting, and it's interesting, is that everybody holding an event, they want us to develop our own marketing, our own promotions, and our own plans to have people attend the event. And they want us to develop, invitation and correspondence. I just wonder why we couldn't share. Can we not, instead of everybody going and doing their own, let's collectively work together, all 5 or 6 of the participants, and come up with one great process and it's the same across the board, so that we could put it out there as a county-wide initiative. I think that would have a bigger impact. So would you mind asking if they would share what they're doing?
Yes, Your Worship, happy to share that with the organizing committee.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you. So I am now going to go to the clerk. I can read the first part if you want to do the second. A recommendation that report number ED-2023-04 be received, and further that staff be directed to undertake a community fair between the week of June 11th to 17th, 2023, in association with County Simcoe's Week of Welcome. And further that, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
And further that staff be, thank you, Your Worship, and further that staff be directed to identify a funding source to support the event and report back to council at the February 27th council meeting.
Okay, council, you're in compliance. Councillor Bissett, did you want to move that motion? I figured you would. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Gabrick. All those in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you, council. Thank you, council. Now we're going to move on to our CW 5-1, and we have a presentation, and it's regard to our CIP.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Jeremy, welcome.
Thank you. So good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of Council. I'm going to be providing you with a quick update on the current Community Improvement Plan, CIP grant program for the year 2022. So New Tecumseh, next slide please, sorry. New Tecumseh has a history of community improvement plans going back to 2005. The purpose was always a long-term strategy to help revitalize the community and promote investment. From 2006 to 2001, 47 businesses have received grants totaling over $589,000, demonstrating this town's commitment to investment in our communities. Many of these enhancements have included signage, facade improvements, and assistance with upgrades to current building code requirements. Next slide, please. So the updated CIP plan, there we go. The updated CIP plan came into effect January 1st of 2022. It included an expansion of the project area and offered an increased suite of grants. 2022 had a budget of $125,000, and we saw over the course of the year approximately 20 expressions of interest. Out of those expressions of interest, 3 CIP grants were awarded, with 2 still in progress, for a total of 5, including a rental housing tax increment equivalency grant, or a TEAG, which is still in progress. Approximately $7,000 was awarded for 3 signage grants, and another $64,000 awarded for other grants. Thank you. The downtown areas of Alliston, Beaton, and Tottenham have a specific set of grants, which include the facade, building, and property improvement grants, which is for upgrades to building facades, signs, and lighting. There's the Downtown Residential Improvement Grant, which is for development or improvement of residential units in the downtown. The Commercial At-Grade Conversion Grant, to add commercial space where there is none or convert commercial space to another commercial use. There's the Public Art Grant for public murals and art installations. There's the Privately Owned Public Space, or POPS grant, for the revitalization of privately owned public outdoor areas that are perceived to be public spaces. And lastly, while this one doesn't occur in the downtowns, it's the Heritage Grant, and it's assistance with maintenance for properties within the recently approved Beaton Heritage Conservation District. So all of these grants are typically a percentage of the total cost to a maximum cap. And then we move into the tax increment equivalency grants programs. There are 3 of them. The Catalytic Development Grant, or the TEAG, or it is a TEAG, encourages the development and redevelopment of pre-selected properties where there will be a significant increase in social and economic benefits to the community as a result of the proposal. The other 2 grants help to stimulate the construction of purpose-built rental units and for development or redevelopment of employment area properties. The image on this slide is actually an artist's rendering of our first rental Teague, applied for and still in progress on Dunham Drive in Alliston for 47 purpose-built rentals. So, as part of the implementation process for the current CIP, Section 7 allows for the yearly review of the plan. Staff are requesting a review as some items have been identified that require a review and update to continue to support redevelopment into our communities. Expansion of the program area and some minor adjustments to eligibility criteria are main issues identified, along with a review of the catalytic priority sites. Additional items are anticipated as part of the review through engagement with the public and business community. So as mentioned, the catalytic priority sites, which are marked in yellow on this slide, need to be reviewed and if needed, update. The 3 communities each have identified sites. Tottenham has sites at the corner of Queen and Mill Streets. Alliston has sites along Victoria Street from Paris Street to Walnut Street. And Beaton are clustered around Main Street, east and west of Patterson Street. The marketing and promotion plan has been spearheaded by the Economic Development Department and has included a wide range of marketing tactics, including social and print media. There's also been an increased engagement with stakeholder organizations, chambers of commerce, and BIAs through presentations at BIA-sponsored events, as well as targeted tactics and messaging for each type of grant. So next steps. With the implementation of a review, our next steps will be to engage the public on the CIP in the spring of 2023 through open houses, online surveys, and outreach to BIAs and Chamber of Commerce. A review of the catalytic sites where staff will prepare a package for council review and input in spring of 2023. And finally, staff propose to have a draft update for summer 2023 for council consideration. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions in regards to the presentation? Councillor Masters?
Thank you, Worship. I guess this is where I can...
No, actually, we're just the comments and questions, then we'll let Jeremy sit down,
Okay.
and then we'll open the floor up to council's discussions. I just don't want you to have to stay there. So if there's any comments or questions of your presentation, Councillor Biss?
Thank you, Worship. Through your Worship, I'm sorry.
Jeremy.
Jerry. I'm sorry, forgive me.
That's okay.
Yeah, and I just had my brain went stalled on me. One of the things that I think that a lot of us are very interested in terms of urban design is to try and encourage businesses to invest in electrical vehicle charging. I mean, we all know that they have a certain range, and EV charging is something that determines whether or not someone can actually visit a certain urban or residential area. Is there some plan to include EV charging stations in this CIP?
Jeremy?
I think I'll
go Drew. Refer to Director Best, please.
Yeah.
So at this time, we haven't. We're taking any input from council. I always sit in the spot with the mic that doesn't work.
No, Director Battery gets here before you and swaps it.
So at this time, we're just seeking input on what should be included for it. So EV chargers could go on our list. So we've just kind of gathered input over the past year from council input and what business owners have submitted to planning and at events have mentioned to us. So the floor is open.
Thank you, Councillor Biss. Very good. Thank you. Any other comments or questions of Jeremy, please? Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. Thanks for your report, Jeremy. Of all the different programs within the CIP, was there any of them that had no applications during the 2022 year? Like, I know you're looking to expand it, but is there also some things that, in looking back, you've said to yourself, we just had no take up on that and there doesn't look to be a lot of optimism out there, so that instead of expanding the program, something could be replaced, potentially?
Director.
Through Mayor Norcross to Councillor Foster. At this time, there was limited uptake with the coming out of COVID. So we're hoping with the more of the marketing and promotion plan that our Economic Development Officer, Ms. Breeden, has been working on, will help stimulate more interest in grants. And we also had a lot of interest in different grants, but they unfortunately were outside of the program area.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments or questions of Jeremy? No, Jeremy, thank you very much for your very detailed report.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. Now I'm going to open up the report to members of council. And I believe this, we're at CW 5-1. So Councillor Masters, you had identified you wanted to speak to it during the presentation.
Thank you, Your Worship. First, if you allow me, I just want to digress a little bit.
Well, it depends how long you're going to digress for, to be honest with you.
Actually,
But,
it's interesting. I sat on the Economic Development Committee for this town nearly 15 years ago, and it was actually the CIP program was handled under that committee, which was mainly made up of businesses, citizens, and a town representative. And so we handled the CIP program, which basically was just the facade program. And it's amazing how much this program has grown over the years, and I'm really happy to see that. But back then we had the same problem that many of the businesses didn't know about the program. And then after we'd finished all our grants up, people would come and say, well, I didn't know about it. I didn't know about it. So that leads me back to the earlier comments, and this is through to Becky Breeden of our EDC department. I noticed that, and it was in the presentation also, and thank you for that presentation, Jeremy. It was very good. Thank you. And part of the marketing side of it, we note that weekly social media posts on town social media channels. First of all, I'd like to ask, what are those media channels? And the second question is, and I should have checked it before I came here, is this program on our own town website? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Masters. Ms. Breeden? Sure.
Okay. Okay, we're on now. Through your worship to Councillor Masters, the social media channels that we are using are Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Those are our main channels. And yes, there's a whole page on the town website dedicated to the CIP, and all of the information, the documents, and the application forms are directly on there, and a step-by-step guide of how to apply for the application.
That was a good counselor. Good question, Councillor Masters. Thank you for doing that. Any more comments or questions in regards to the report? Councillor Gabrick?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to speak to what Councillor Biss brought forward about electric stations for charging. I think it's a fabulous idea, especially with range anxiety being such a thing, working in the automotive industry and knowing what's coming for electric vehicles in the future. We know that we need to be prepared and have the infrastructure in place. So as a halfway destination between the Muskokas and the GTA, this is a lovely place to stop, charge up the car, have lunch, buy something, get back in the car, head on up to the cottage. So I just wanted to add that.
No, and can I ask you a question? That's interesting. Range anxiety. That's out there. I never thought of it.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship, to Your Worship, it is a real thing, and it's becoming like the biggest problem since COVID. Like people are, buying vehicles. They're looking to the salespeople when they're buying the vehicles to not just look at the stats on the vehicles themselves, but also what the vehicle is truly capable of, depending on what you're towing and how far you need to go, and then what those layovers and delays look like because of the lack of infrastructure currently available. So I think, that would be a fantastic add to our downtowns.
No, thank you for explaining it. You know, right? I take gas stations for granted. Because they're everywhere. You never think about it. So thank you for sharing that. So we have a recommendation that report number PD 2023-09 be received. And further, that the presentation of Jeremy Bonham be received. Further, council directs staff to review the community improvement program as a whole, in addition to feedback obtained from council, business owners, and of course, members of the public. Do we have a mover and a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor, Councillor Masters, all those in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. We're going to move on to item CW.5, Urban Design Guidelines Review Needs Assessment Report and Project Update. And I believe that was pulled by Councillor Harrison McIntyre, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Excuse me. I'm really excited about this, that we're finally getting to this. As everyone saw, our urban design guidelines haven't been updated since 2002. And so this is long overdue. I mean, the report speaks to some of the problems that our current urban areas have in terms of walkability, in terms of like sizing, spacing. So it couldn't come any sooner. My question is, in the report it says that the building or landscape style won't be addressed or won't be spoken to, but that there'll be a similar set of principles and specific principles for the different building types. So what I'm wondering is, when we get an application for like a new build, like we had in, an infill housing, and it's how are we going to, in terms of the style, how are we going to deal with that? Because what's happened in the past is, we get an application and it's like in an old neighborhood and it's all siding. And we have to go back and be like, no, we're looking for something of a higher quality build. Is that something that is, it doesn't sound like it's something that's going to be addressed in here, but how is it will it be addressed?
Through Mayor Norcross to Councillor Harrison McIntyre. The item won't be addressed to say what materials and things like that. So the principles and the items under compatibility and public realm and character of neighborhood. So it's going to hold those things as high standards that they would have to adhere to. So it's not going to be prescriptive of saying brick only, no siding, has to go with a color palette from Benjamin Moore. Like, it won't go into those details, but there'll be a set of principles and explaining it with examples in the urban design guidelines to help with that. And we are working towards figuring out how to get urban design back into the planning process, since it was removed as part of Bill 23 with site plan. So we're also working with the consultant on that as well, so we can still have a review of urban design to ensure it meets our needs.
Thank you. I didn't even think about Bill 23 when I was reading this, but thank you for bringing to my attention that some of this stuff won't even, I think this is a bigger conversation that I like to have with you after. So thank you very much for that answer. We will still have the opportunity as council, though, when an application comes forward, to speak to that? Or again, is that something that with Bill 23, those applications we won't have an opportunity to speak to the quality of build?
Director?
As I mentioned, we're trying to work on a way to work around Bill 23 to give council that ability and staff to review it as well.
Thank you. And so Councillor Foster, then Councillor Masters.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. Through you to Director Best. I think we're all familiar with Niagara on the Lake, maybe Huntsville or Gravenhurst, and everything that gets built in those places. I'm not sure of what goes on behind the scenes or the fight that happens at council, but what do they do in their urban design guidelines that, whether it's a fast food restaurant, whether it's a winery, whether it's anything that goes up, just conforms to that overall look of the municipality? Is there maybe what do they do that other municipalities don't do that give them that ability to create a look and then enforce that look through site plan applications?
Director?
Mayor Norcross, Councilor Foster, I can't speak to the exact intricacies of some of the other municipalities have put in very prescriptive urban design guidelines. Some of them exercise through heritage conservation districts and that permit process.
I gotta go ahead.
So we're looking at, with our urban design guidelines, of having
Who
these
does?
principles. And I encourage council, if they want to have those conversations with our consultants, to come out to our public information session that will be coming up on February 23rd. I know at the last public information session, various councillors did show up and have some of those conversations, and that really helps to inform of where we're going to get to, because we're going to be coming down from kind of high level into what things are going to look like in a very short period of time.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Masters, then Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. My question is, first of all, this is one of the best reports I've read on needs assessment. I've read a few over the years through the town, and this one is pretty in depth. In particular, I noted on there it talks about limited walkways, surface parking dominance being an issue, and the little or no connectivity. And I really like the idea that this report is focusing on the needs of the people to be able to get around without trying to use their car. But that in mind, I didn't see a lot of information on public transit. And I think if we're going to, and I know that's the kind of the elephant in the room right now, because the county has been taking care of some of our transit needs right now, but sooner or later we're going to have to think about our infrastructure and how we as a town are going to manage transit within our town borders. And I wonder, if this is something that can be, really included in this particular report.
Are you comfortable? Thank you.
The public transit piece is within if you go into the detail.
And then always encompassing that we know that transit's coming down. And so that it won't be a surprise or a shock to the communities going forward that you will see transit buses. Well, let me finish. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Masters.
Thank you. Thank you, Worship. So does this mean that we will be working on our own internal transit program in the future? Is this something that we're going to put together as an addendum to this report or in addition to this report? Like a more solid plan focusing on the needs assessment report itself, on how we're going to lay out.
Director?
This will be dealt with through the town's transportation master plan. It's a multimodal master plan which deals with public transit, and that is implemented through the engineering department. So we've referenced it, and we'll utilize the principles in that plan and incorporate some of them into the urban design guidelines.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Masters. Deputy Mayor, you were next.
Thank you, Worship. Going back to Councillor Foster's comment about Niagara on the Lake, Councillor Harrison McIntyre and I both looked at each other and simultaneously whispered Heritage District, because it is a heritage district, and that's something that any heritage district I've ever been in is beautiful, like Niagara on the Lake. So I just wanted to point that out. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so any other comments or questions in regards to the comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. Is it exclusive to heritage districts, or does that designation have to be made in order to get that particular look, or can it be done without the need of a heritage designation? I guess through to Director Best. And thank you for the comment. I was not aware of that.
Everyone has what they feel is appropriate for urban design guidelines, and that's where it gets really tricky, where it's subjective. So we're taking a principled approach and looking at other things like compatibility and connectivity and items like that to establish our look and feel. Because if you go through our communities, we don't have one look or feel. We have a multitude. So it's how do we do that gracefully and respectfully to the existing architecture and enhance where we
Thank you. All right, so we have the recommendation that report number PD 2023-10 be received, and further that staff continue to work with the project consultants to carry out the necessary public engagement to provide council with an updated set of urban design guidelines for review and approval. Moved by Councillor Rappin, yes? Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Cox. All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. We have no public notices. And we have adjournment at the Committee of the Whole meeting of February 13, 2023, adjourn at 8:15. Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Masters. Yes? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff. Thank you, everybody. Well done.